Number 3, dispersal. The scattering or dispersal of something. I thought, dispersal of our normal connection with God. When you fall into these things, slowly your connection does fade. You can't help that. Unless you make it right then and there. You know what I'm talking about. You start to fade away. And number 4 is abating of feeling or emotion. The disappearance of a feeling or emotion, such as anger or anxiety. And we can all relate to that. Those moments where we no longer feel our connection with God. And we're wondering, how do we even get here? You know, each one of these things gets heavier and heavier as I go down the list. And each one of these things is linked. It's kind of like a slide. Once you start at the top, you can't go back unless you like jump off or something. But I wouldn't recommend that. It never turns out really good. but really, all these things are pretty serious, and they're all linked. You see, sin is just like a chain. The first time you sin, it clamps onto you until you do something about it. And if you don't, it just keeps growing, adding more and more links until eventually you're weighed down. You can't do anything about it. You know, it kind of works a little bit like this. We put our heart into our jar. We put our life into our hands and control our heart and think we can take care of it. And every once in a while, we slip up. Things get a little foggy, but we can still see. It's not that bad. Our lives are pretty clear. We know where we're going. We think we have that. We still see that connection with God. But then we slip up again, and things get a little darker. We say, I'm still doing okay. You know, I've made my few mistakes, but I don't see any reason to change. I'm still doing good. And then eventually we get to the point where we can't see anything at all. We don't even know how to get out. And this is often how our hearts look. And we wonder, how did we even get to that point? How did we even get to this point where we can't see God anymore? Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. What a true statement this is. I mean, you see, our spiritual hearts reflect exactly who and what we are and what we do. It's just like looking into that dirty water. You can no longer see the reflection of who God made you to be, but rather just a distorted image, almost completely unrecognizable. I was listening to a man preach once, and he was talking about tainted wells. He was speaking about these water wells in Mexico that had been poisoned by one way or another, and how dead animals would fall into these wells, and the people would have no way to get these dead animals out. And suddenly, the thing that once brought them life, water, was completely useless. Poison. They couldn't even drink from this water anymore because they couldn't cleanse the water. Our spiritual lives are a lot like this. You see, just like the dirty water in the poisoned wells, it reflects our hearts when we don't protect them. When your heart is stuffed full of garbage, you can't possibly bring new life to anything, let alone live a life of fulfillment on your own. When you are spiritually dying, you can't expect to help someone else with their spiritual life. Just like the tainted wells can no longer supply life to the people until they are cleansed. Once we realize this sometimes, we don't even know where to start. The water of our hearts is so dirty, we don't know where to go, and sometimes changing it even seems impossible. Thankfully, the answer is actually very simple. Psalms 144 says, "Let not my heart be drawn to what is evil, to take part in wicked deeds, with men who are evildoers. Let me not eat of their delicacies. When we don't know what to do, there's only one thing to do. In this psalm, David is doing what we all must do in times like this. He is asking for help from the only one that can help him, God. Oftentimes, when we've come to this point, we have to learn to say, God, I don't know what I did, but this is what I look like now, and I need you to fix that. I'm tired of putting restraints on my life that keep bringing me back to this point, God. I don't even know how to get back, but please show me. And after a while, God will clear your heart. It takes time. Just like the water is still foggy and not quite perfect again, you have to wait it out. You have to strive for that right connection again. It's not just going to be right away. You have to strive for that connection with God. You have to do the things He asks. It's not just going to be an overnight thing. It doesn't happen like that. When you dig yourself in a pit, it takes time to get out. You're not just going to spread wings all of a sudden and jump out. You have to wait. So just as that water is still foggy, eventually it will be clear again. It reflects our hearts. You know, if you keep slacking off and allowing yourself to go through the drive-thru, you're not going to reach your goal. But if you keep striving for that goal and that connection with God, eventually your heart will be